There is nothing more deceptive than an obvious fact. Most of my investigations began with a phone call. This one began with a combine harvester. A farmer harvesting corn several dozen miles outside Dallas felt a violent jolt. Assuming the header had clogged again, he stopped the machine and climbed down to inspect it. Instead, he found a human body. At first glance, it looked like an accident. The man had ended up beneath the combine, and the horrific damage supported that conclusion. But I had learned long ago how deceptive first impressions could be. The tall corn around the body was barely disturbed, no trampled path, no broken stalks, no sign that anyone had walked into the field. It was as though no one had carried him there, and he had come from nowhere. Nearly every major bone was broken. For a moment, I wondered whether an ordinary combine could have caused so much damage. Then a stranger question took its place. If this man had not reached the field on foot, how had he ended up in the middle of it? The body reached the morgue a few hours later. Dr. Brooks confirmed that the combine had caused terrible injuries, but it had not killed the man. Some of the trauma was older. The fractures and internal damage suggested a fall from a great height, far more than a few yards. Yet the body had been found in an open field with no building, tower, or cliff nearby. Brooks collected samples for toxicology, though the results would take time. An accident was still possible. It simply could not explain what he had fallen from when nothing around him stood higher than the corn. By the next day, the victim was still unidentified. No documents, wallet, or keys, nothing that could give us a name. Only two belongings seemed useful: a badly damaged phone and a crumpled receipt. I copied what remained legible. Northline Coffee, 418 Brook Street, 4:42 p.m. 1 black coffee and 1 large vanilla latte. Dallas had no Brook Street, and Northline appeared in no local directory. Missing person reports and the evening news produced no match, so the phone went to digital forensics. Everything depended on whether its memory had survived what its owner had not. The phone went to Lucas Bennett, a digital forensics specialist who recovered data from devices everyone else considered dead. Even he made no promises. The screen was shattered, the casing split, and dirt and moisture had reached the circuitry. Calls, contacts, and messages were lost. After hours of work, Lucas recovered only a few photographs. 2 damaged selfies were clear enough for the news. The last image was mostly gone, leaving only a red stripe across pale metal. I had no idea what it showed, and at the time it seemed useless. The photographs aired that evening. The next morning, Sophia called and identified the victim as Daniel, her former boyfriend. She flew in from Austin and recognized his watch, jacket, and leather bracelet. Daniel was 21. He, Sophia, and her current boyfriend, Michael, had studied together. Daniel and Sophia had remained friends after their breakup. A week earlier, Michael had seen them together, and jealousy had nearly turned the argument into a fight. Sophia described him as intelligent, spoiled, and fond of dramatic gestures and unconventional solutions. That did not make him guilty. It made him worth checking. Sophia's mention of Austin also solved the receipt. Brook Street existed there, and Northline Coffee stood at number 418. We finally knew where Daniel had been seen on his last day. I flew to Austin that evening. The barista at Northline recognized Daniel from the photograph. He had arrived alone, but ordered 2 drinks, a black coffee and a large vanilla latte, at 4:42 p.m. The shop had been nearly empty, so she remembered him carrying both cups outside and entering a large, dark SUV. She could not identify the make or plate, but noticed a spare wheel on the rear door beneath an unusually large, rigid cover. At 4:42, Daniel met someone outside that coffee shop. Minutes later, the SUV drove him away, and no one saw him alive again. The coffee shop gave me a time. The morgue gave me a window of death. There was not enough time for Daniel to travel from Austin to the field by road, which left the air. It explained both the distance and Brooks's findings, though explanation was not evidence. I requested a list of private airfields, then visited Michael's family estate. Oil money had bought high walls, cameras, security, and a life in which he had rarely heard the word no. Michael admitted the argument and the jealousy, but claimed he had calmed down. On the day Daniel disappeared, he said he had been home alone. There were no witnesses, only the cameras at the gate. The footage could confirm his story or destroy it, but security refused to release it without a warrant. The warrant arrived the next day. At 4:49 p.m., Michael's sports car entered the estate. Daniel's receipt had been printed 7 minutes earlier, and the drive from North Line took at least 25 minutes. The camera missed the driver's face, but caught a sleeve reaching toward the gate reader. A university baseball jacket, like the one Michael wore almost every day. His car and his jacket appeared at home while Daniel was buying coffee across the city. The argument still supplied a motive, but without opportunity, it meant little. Michael's alibi looked convincing, and I accepted it. The investigation stalled. Michael had an alibi, the SUV had vanished, and the search of nearby airfields had led nowhere. All I had were Daniel's belongings and the recovered photographs, including the broken image of a red stripe on pale metal. None explained the cornfield. I returned to Sophia because she knew Daniel's world better than I did. After studying the fragment, she recognized the pattern. The same stripe ran along an aircraft owned by Michael's family and kept in a private hangar outside Austin. For the first time, the theory involving the air had a name attached to it. Registration records confirmed Sophia's identification. Michael's family owned the aircraft. He held a pilot's license and had unrestricted access to the hangar. On the day Daniel disappeared, the plane took off at 5:38 p.m. and returned 2 hours later. The timing fit, but the records named only the aircraft, not the pilot. Michael's parents and a hired pilot also used it. The flight alone proved nothing, especially while the gate camera appeared to place Michael at home. But we now had a plane capable of reaching the field and a photograph connecting Daniel to it. That was enough for a warrant. The next morning, we entered the hangar and began searching the aircraft. The plane looked prepared for sale. The carpet had been scrubbed, the seats treated, and almost every usable print removed. Technicians found no blood, hair, or fibers, even in the luggage compartment. Someone had carefully erased anything linking Daniel to the aircraft. Carefully, however, is not perfectly. The side door resisted slightly when opened. Inside its dismantled mechanism, deep between the guide rail and inner panel, technicians found a scratched button with strands of dark fabric still attached. We did not yet know whose it was, but it had lodged beyond the reach of the cleaning. It was the first real evidence recovered from the plane. The button matched those on Daniel's jacket in alloy, shape, and manufacturing marks. The fibers matched the fabric, and one button was missing from the jacket's right side. Daniel had been inside the aircraft. That same day, toxicology found a powerful sedative in the surviving samples. The dose could have left him unable to resist, though it was not fatal by itself. Someone had taken Daniel to the plane, drugged him, and carried him into the air. I watched the gate footage again. It proved that Michael's car had returned home. It did not prove Michael was driving. The camera had recorded a vehicle, not a man, and his alibi no longer existed. I returned to Michael's estate and found a large, dark SUV near the entrance. Its rear spare wheel sat beneath the same oversized, rigid cover the barista had described. Michael was by the pool with a friend from his university team. The friend admitted the SUV was his. Beside his chair lay a baseball jacket identical to Michael's and to the sleeve caught by the gate camera. I now had 2 vehicles and 2 men in the same kind of jacket. Michael's car could have entered the estate with his friend driving, while Michael took Daniel away in the SUV. Michael's friend was Eric. At the station, he denied everything until I placed the SUV photographs, the gate footage, and the button from the aircraft in front of him. Then he asked for a lawyer. An hour later, Eric gave a statement. He and Michael had exchanged vehicles. Wearing a baseball jacket, Eric drove Michael's sports car through the estate gate at 4:49 p.m., while Michael took the SUV. Michael had said he wanted to meet Daniel, settle their argument, and invite him on a short flight. Eric claimed he knew nothing about the sedative or the murder, but after returning, Michael demanded his silence. Michael was no longer merely a man with a broken alibi. He was the principal suspect in Daniel's murder. Eric's statement closed the final gap. At 4:42 p.m., Daniel bought 2 coffees and entered the SUV. Michael was driving. He offered to end their dispute and suggested a short flight. We never proved exactly when Daniel received the sedative, but one of the 2 cups gave Michael the opportunity. Meanwhile, Eric drove Michael's sports car through the estate gate at 4:49, wearing the same kind of jacket. The car went home. Michael did not. At 5:38, the family aircraft took off. Daniel could barely resist, though he may have regained awareness near the side door. During the struggle, a button tore from his jacket and lodged deep in the mechanism. Michael cleaned the cabin afterward, but never reached it. Over the cornfield, Michael opened the door and pushed Daniel out. The stalks concealed the body and left no path to it. Days later, the combine destroyed almost everything the fall had left intact. Michael nearly succeeded. The body's condition obscured the method. The plane had been cleaned, and the gate footage appeared to provide an alibi. The entire plan collapsed because of one button. It placed Daniel inside the aircraft, and Eric's statement turned the recording from proof of innocence into evidence of deception. Michael was arrested that evening. He did not confess during the first interrogation. By then, it hardly mattered. Some people spend their lives mistaking the absence of refusal for proof that they are right. Then, one day, the world finally tells them no, usually too late and with absolute finality.